Hi everyone, we are talking about angles, and the first thing we're going to do is skip ahead to number 2 here. We're going to go back to number 1 later. And what they're asking us to do is sketch a graph of our angle. So basically just sketch where the angle is and determine what quadrant we end up in. Okay, so terminal just means end. So it's asking us which quadrant our angle ends in. Well, we're starting with number 2 because it's more akin to what we've done in the past. So remember, we always start along the positive x-axis. Okay, that's always going to be our initial side. And what I got to do is figure out where 280 degrees is in relationship to my initial side. Well, I know that straight up is 90 degrees. Okay, I know a flat line is 180 degrees. You'll find we just keep adding increments of 90 degrees. Straight down here is going to be 270. And then if I go full circle, well, I know that that's 360 degrees. Okay, well, I know that 280 falls between 270 and 360, so it's going to be somewhere around here. And this is going to be my angle. So remember, here in this case, we always go counterclockwise. And we end up in the fourth quadrant. Okay. So something to note here is our angle was positive. Okay, so we have a positive angle, and we go counterclockwise. And that's something that you're going to have to know. And again, we ended up in the fourth. Okay, now let's go back to number 1. This time, you'll notice we have a negative angle, slightly different. Okay, but there's only one thing you have to remember to do. So we always, again, start along the positive x-axis. Again, that's always going to be my initial side. It's always going to be my initial side. Not going to start anywhere else. We like the positive x-axis. And this time, because it's negative, instead of going counterclockwise, like I did in my positive angle, I'm just going to go the other way. I'm going to go clockwise. So I'm going to go, I guess, to the right. Now, my reference angles that I'm using here, my reference points, are going to remain basically the same. So if I go straight down, okay, that's again 90 degrees, but because I went clockwise, it's negative 90 degrees. A flat line is still negative 180. And if I go straight up, that's going to be negative 270. And then if I go full circle, it's be negative 360. Now, negative 160 is going to be in between negative 90 and negative 180. It's going to be over here somewhere. Okay, so I draw my little circle here, indicating that I went counterclockwise. Sorry, I went clockwise. I went clockwise because it's a negative angle, and I end up in the third quadrant. So what to note here is we had a negative angle, and we went clockwise. Okay, and that is the only difference between my negative and positive angles. Okay, now what happens if we have a really big angle? Okay, so you'll notice this is bigger than 360 degrees. Well, all that means is I'm going to go around my circle more than once. So again, we'll start on the positive x-axis. And I know that if I go straight up, it's 90. Flat is 180. I go down, it's 270. And if I go full circle, I went 360 degrees. But that's not enough because my angle is 452. So I have to keep going. And I'm just going to, again, keep adding increments of 90. So if I go straight up again, that's 90 degrees more than 360, so that's going to be 450 degrees. And then if I go again, that's going to be 540 degrees. And I see that 452 is in between 450 and 540. It's going to be over here somewhere. Okay, now the way that we're going to show that we went around the circle more than once is we're going to draw a swirl. So this indicates that I went around the circle one time, and I had to keep going. I had to go a little further. And so my swirl here just shows that I went around the circle more than once. I still ended up in the same place that I would have if it was smaller than 360, okay, but I went around the circle more than once. So normally you would just draw this small thing here, but because the angle was so big, we had to go around more than once. Okay, and it's going to be the same thing for 4, 5, and 6. I'm going to let you try that on your own. And we're going to keep going. So if you run into problems, you can always ask in tutoring or send me a text. Okay, so next they ask us to determine the measure of an angle coterminal with a given angle that satisfies our domain here. Well, coterminal is a new word, and again, terminal just means where it ends, and co just means like together or with. So really, an angle that's coterminal just means it ends in the same place. Okay, so for instance, on number 7, okay, our angle is 48 degrees. So I know 48 degrees is going to be around here somewhere. Okay, so here's my initial side, and it's going to be over here somewhere, and here's my angle. What I want is another angle that ends in the same place. Okay, I want it to end in the same place, but I want the angle to be between 360 and 720, which means that I have to go around the circle more than once. Okay, so I have to go around the circle. I have to go around the circle one time and then a little bit further. And you see, I end in the same place, but my angle is much bigger. Okay, and analytically, the only thing we really have to do is I know that I went one full circle and then I went 48 degrees more than that. So I just have to add 360, which is a full circle, to 48 degrees, which is this angle right here. And I end up getting 408 degrees, which is my coterminal angle, and it's also between my given domain. Okay, it's in my given domain between 360 and 720, and so I know that this is a good number. Let's try another one. Let's try a negative one. So here I have negative 15 degrees, which I know is in the fourth quadrant. It's going to be here somewhere. So here's my angle, and I want a coterminal angle between 180 and 540. Okay. So I want to end in the same place, but notice that if I'm between 180 and 540, I'm positive. So what I want is this angle right here. Okay, I want to go counterclockwise. Well, I know that if I go full circle, that's 360, and I only don't want this little part right here, which I know is negative 15 degrees, so I'm just going to add those. Or you can think about it as subtracting 15 degrees because that's what we're missing from the whole circle. Whichever way you want to think about it, it's fine. You get 345. Okay, and you're going to approach the rest of them the exact same way. Okay, so realistically, all you're really doing is adding or subtracting increments of 360 from your given angle until you get in your domain. Okay, that's realistically what you're doing here. Okay, all that 11 through 14 is asking you to do is sketch an angle. So I'm given 55 degrees, so that's somewhere around here. So here's my angle. And again, this is always our initial side. And give two different coterminal angles, one that's positive, one that's negative. So again, I'm going to want to end up in the, okay, I drew that pretty bad, but I want to end up in the same place. But the way that we get there is going to be different. So if I want a negative coterminal angle, I want to go clockwise. So I'm going to go the other way. And that's it. That's my coterminal angle. I ended up in the same place, but I went clockwise. Okay, now I want a positive one. So because I already have a positive angle here, all I got to do is go around the circle at least one time. Okay, so this is a different angle. Okay, you see how I only have a sector here and I went full around the circle one time. So it's a different angle, it's much bigger, but I still ended up in the same place, so it is coterminal. And I mean, there's all kinds of answers you could give me. You could go around the circle more than once. You keep going around the circle, but this is going to be the simplest solution. Right, and last thing is a review of complementary and supplementary. So remember, complementary just means you add up to 90 degrees. Supplementary just means you add up to 180 degrees. I'm given 35, and I want to know what plus 35 is 90. And I want to know what plus 35 is 180. So all you really got to do is subtract from 90 and 180. That's all you have to remember. And so in this case, we get 55. And in this case, we get 145. All right, and that is it for this video. See y'all later.